What's going on, YouTube? Thank you for coming to my channel. My name is Wally, and you are now tuned into Playboy Hustlers TV.
This the king of melodies beat.
Hey, I got some more Thomas Sowell right here. I got a new one on deck today. Joe Rogan finally gets to be introduced to your man Thomas Sowell. You understand what I mean? To none other than the great Thomas Sowell. Word. So you know him. He always be digging in a lot of different rabbit holes. He don't play. He's a little funny about how he go about it. But alright, let's go and dive into this. Let's see what Joe Rogan gonna talk about with his host. I believe the host is gonna put him on to who Thomas Sowell is. Let's go.
Do you know Thomas Sowell?
I know that name. Why do I know that name?
Thomas Sowell is a big, famous conservative. He's at Stanford. He's at the Hoover Institute, I think. Anyway, so, you know, within this, I mean, first, just to set all of this up, we should set up briefly, how does culture work, right? And the way culture works is that it, like genetic evolution, it works based on blind copying. So what ends up happening is that you are in awe of people, right? You look up to people, and so you blindly copy the things they do. And specifically, you start by blindly copying from the outside, and then you work in. Thomas Sowell is a black guy, right? Okay. And Thomas Sowell has for years and years and years been trying to fight racism. But he's been trying to fight racism by having a conversation about culture, right? And the fact that there are essentially two different sort of, you know, we're speaking broadly here, right? But this is for the purposes of communication. We're going to tell a simple story to start off with, right?
Hey, is it me or is Joe Rogan trying to steal my background, yo? Nah, I'm playing with you.
So, broadly speaking, he puts two different cultures of people with dark skin next to each other. And one culture is these people from the West Indies, and one culture is this group of people who grew up in the South with slavery and all that sort of stuff. Now, what one group, the West Indies group, does really well. So a lot of the successful black people, people like Colin Powell, are originally from that cultural heritage. The other group is the group that you find in ghettos and African-American communities and all of that sort of stuff. They don't do well, right? They don't get good education. They, you know, shoot each other. There are all these sorts of things. And the reason why Sowell has been telling this story is because he's been trying to say, you know, when liberals look at the people in ghettos, they say, ah, racism. That's why they're not succeeding. And Sowell is saying, no, it's not. Because if you look at this group from the West Indies, they also came from the experience of slavery.
And they're doing perfectly fine. I'm telling you, they be tricking everybody into their own demise, and people are living in their own illusion based on what they're being told because they don't want to critically think. That's what happens when you don't critically think for yourself and you're taught just leave that in the hands of someone else or a different entity. You get me? You get me?
With slavery in the West Indies. They are also black, so they also face racism, and yet they do well. So it has to be something else. And that other thing is the fact that these black people who are in the South, there's always been a big question, were black people robbed of their culture, or did they preserve their authentic African culture? And what Sowell is saying is that they were robbed of their culture, and so they picked up the culture of the people around them, and the people around them were rednecks. And if you look at the white redneck culture and the black redneck culture, they have a lot of the same values.
That's for real. They both die hard about what they go for.
Don't particularly respect education. They love Jesus. They use violence in their conflicts. And they, you know, there's just, you know, a lot of the same values and a lot of the same outcomes. And even Ebonics, which is, you know, black English, is actually all from the west of England. So it's actually this.
What?
It's from the west.
Wow, I never knew that, yo. And they had me thinking this was our stuff. Wow. See what I'm saying? I was today years old when I got this information. Ain't that something?
Of England. So, for example, if you go to places like Cornwall, there used to be these amazing ads on British TV, right, for this Devon custard or whatever, and they would always say, Devon knows how they make it so creamy, and they all talk like this, right? And so it doesn't sound like black English, but they do say things like, I be doing that, and we be doing this, and you be doing that, and they be doing that. And so there's that use of that copula be, right, where instead of saying I am, you are, he is, she is, they are, they just say I be, you be, we be, they be, which is the classic feature of black English, African-American vernacular English. Right. Now,
Unbelievable, yo. Did you know this? Put it in the comments. Let me know if you knew this, because like I told you, I'm today years old finding this out.
The point is that
Mind blower.
Now, let's imagine that. How do you think that Thomas Sowell has been received by liberal America? Not well.
Not well.
Not well. And so, for example, Sowell has a book called Black Rednecks, White Liberals. Okay? And his whole point is that, you know, if you actually, and, you know, again, like Sowell is, you know, he researches the shit out of this stuff. He really does his work. Now, if you look at the experience of African Americans after slavery, they start to make real progress. Right? And a large part of the reason why they make progress is because you start to get a lot of people from New England, either, you know, black people from New England or white people from New England, who come down and sort of reshape the culture. They create these schools and they're teaching those New England values, right? It's those Puritan values of hard work, tenacity, all of that sort of stuff. And so there's all this progress. And you have people like Booker T. Washington. And Booker T. Washington was an actual slave. And then after he got his freedom, he got to go work in a salt mine, which is literally the worst job ever. And in Booker T. Washington's Up From Slavery, he tells this great story about seeing a schoolhouse, right? And that, you know, he thought that going into a schoolhouse was about as close to heaven on earth as you could get.
Whoa.
Like, this is a dude who wanted an education really, really badly. And that's a lot of what you find in the, you know, early black experience in, you know, the post-slavery period. And in fact, you know, blacks, you know, before sort of World War II actually had higher rates of marriage than whites. All of these sorts of things that, you know, are now supposedly a problem.
You see what I'm saying, yo? Don't always believe what's being told to you. Go look it up for yourself. You understand me? There's nothing stopping you to go find that out.
And then there's this turnaround, right? The black experience starts to go south, right? It starts to get worse.
And what year is this around?
This is post-World War II, right? So
post-slavery, black people experience a rebounding.
They're starting to make some progress. There's ambition.
Progress.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, if in terms of books to read, like, you know, because a large part of what I'm trying to do in general is really let's move to the place of all people are created equal. Like, let's remove all these stupid distinctions, right, and really live that principle. And the problem is that in order to really live that principle, you need a new narrative that beats slavery. So, you know, it's not, if you go and talk to racists, you can't just say racism is bad. Like, that doesn't destroy racism, right? What destroys racism is when you make sense of the things that they know, right? They see, you know, people who are violent in the ghettos, or they see crime, or they see a lack of education, or they see that Africa is poor. And you're able to tell a better story that makes sense of the things that they know, but also comes out with the conclusion, oh, we actually all have the same potential.
Things you find out after a certain time. School's been done and I'm still learning, you hear me? Hey, if you like what you saw, make sure you hit that like, definitely hit that subscribe button, and definitely hit the notification bell, alright? I will see y'all with some more Thomas Sowell. Hey man, this guy's always dropping some truth bomb, man. It is crazy this world we living in, huh? Alright now, see you in the next one. Love.